Good evening. Are we still awake? I'm kind of standing between you and the lucky draw, I know, right? I better make sure this is interesting, right? So, one quick question today. How many of you have enough IT budget to spend? Put out your hands. If you have more than enough, you know you don't belong here, really, seriously. Go home now. No, joking. But today, I'm actually here to share with you about one perspective that is from Red Hat about how we can actually help you fund your IT innovation. I mean, you went through the whole day, you talk about DevOps, cloud native, containers, wonderful tools that could actually propel your organization forward. Then how do you actually go about acquiring them, right? Okay, then, you know, when it comes to dollars and cents, that's where we have that discussion. Oh, not enough money, can you come back next quarter? But it's stopping you and business and improving your organization. So I'm here to bring to you, from a Red Hat perspective, how this could be done. One of the ways, anyway, okay? My name is Sean Sim, and I actually help customers in the region, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, in terms of how to actually optimize their infrastructure, the thing that powers digital transformation. Okay, first up, let's talk about trends in digital transformation. Okay, just very quickly, we've heard so much about digital transformation. Everybody seems to have a different take. Digital transformation is DevOps. Digital transformation is containers. But what is it? In my perspective, it's actually pretty simple. You have your digital businesses, Uber, Grab, okay? You have Airbnb, companies who do their businesses almost exclusively through digital means. And then you have your traditional businesses, right? Those who are doing what I call analog businesses, right? They still haven't digitized much of their offerings yet, but they are actually on their way there. Now, the gap between analog and digital, that's why I call digital transformation. And why is it important, right? Think about it. Those examples I've mentioned, Uber, Grab, do they own cars? Airbnb, do they own hotels? Numerous other examples there, okay, in today's digital transformation or digitally transformed world. So, it did not come from me, but rather if you have a look at some of the stats out here, the trends in digital transformation. Okay, basically, 77% of companies out there, they say technology is definitely one of the top 3 influences. In fact, just about 2 weeks ago, I read an article on, I think it was Business Times. Aviva, it's a company, a traditional insurance company that undertook the journey, okay? And today, they are doing about, seeing about an additional 1.8 billion pounds in terms of revenue from digital transformation or digital routes. That is revenue that could very easily be replicable. The services to the customers are very consistent because they're dealing with their smartphones, right? Or any other digital mobile device that they have, okay? And I think it's important to also realize, right, today, in today's context, a lot of times, your competitor is not the other company that provides a similar service. It's also about, that app that sits inside the smartphone, that's sitting right next to the apps or, between you, your customers' time with you, okay? I, for one, like to play some of these games there, and then my wife actually, that actually takes away a lot of my time from my wife, right? And that's something that she's not very happy about. But that's the truth, that's the reality, right? You are competing with omni-channels worth of attention in terms of digital influences to your customer, okay? They all have a smartphone, and everybody is trying to get it into their way, okay, in terms of actually getting their attention. So, needless to say, today, it's almost as good as saying that in this digital world, it's important to evolve so that you can adapt and at least stay relevant. Yeah, I can't think of many industries out there who, if they do not adapt, they're able to stay ahead of the curve or at least be relevant, right? So, what are some of the things in digital transformation that's important today? Okay, my colleague earlier on, Chuan Wu, he started talking about DevOps. In fact, we heard so much about DevOps today. So what is it about DevOps that has helped people? Essentially, you take from an idea, okay, all the way to development, the engineers who take care of it, all the way to operationalizing it into a service that's delivered in front of your customer, put it into one continuous cycle, okay, that enables you to bring about services very quickly and in a very agile manner. Right? We talk about ideas like being able to deliver an idea into something that's a service to a customer within days. Okay, right. So and customers, and based on the research that we have done, customers who are able to do this, what do they see? 22% less time on unplanned work and rework. Something that I'm sure a lot of us actually have experienced, right? Okay, you publish a piece of code, and then you know there's actually some errors there, and then you actually have to rework on it. Okay. They spend 50% less time remediating security issues, and they see 29% more time on new work. This is the stuff that your bosses wants to see, that you guys actually spending time in terms of improving the company or the organization's capability. And as a by effect of that, employees are more likely to recommend their organization to a friend. Okay? So many of us, when we work in an organization, we get so sick, you know, don't get our friend in trouble, don't come to my company, right? But people who have actually done this successfully are seeing that their employees love it so much that they actually recommend their friends, right? Another trend in digital transformation, that is when we go for cloud-native application deployment. Simply put, your applications, regardless of the platforms out there, multi-cloud, you know, public cloud, private cloud, different cloud vendors, you can actually put it across into any other platforms and actually be able to deliver things very quickly. This is a snapshot of how some of these companies look like after they actually adopt cloud-native application development. What happens? You see that in terms of how do they get there in the first place, right? It's because they see, number one, faster service delivery. Okay, the infrastructure that's underlying does not stop them from being able to deliver all the different stages in terms of a development cycle being pushed up. Okay, they see a lot faster in terms of time to market for new products and services, 48%. Now that's a lot if you ask me, right? And of course the dollars and cents, you know, per cloud application, you're seeing about up to $6.8 million additional revenue. And then you're looking at reduced costs, added together close to 10 million. Of course, these are figures that are published as averages, but think about the characteristics of this and what it brings to your organization. Okay, what it means that for you, it also means that you can get to go home and sleep earlier, lah. You know, right? So we talk so much about it. Okay, so where is the proof? You guys have probably seen a lot of Cathay Pacific today, shared by my colleagues. Yeah, particularly like their fanfare idea, okay, because that's where I usually go online and actually buy tickets as well. Don't buy tickets on a Sunday, by the way. Buy it on a Tuesday. My wife has told me that because every Tuesday my credit card sometimes goes missing, right? So, but really, you know, Cathay Pacific, okay, they were bogged down with legacy infrastructure. Okay, they decided to take the plunge with us, and thankfully they are a proud customer of us today, and they're happy to actually be one of our reference customers. Okay, they have unified their infrastructure in terms of provisioning, in terms of the underlying infrastructure that they use, okay, down to the platform as a service portfolio that they have, okay, using OpenShift. Macquarie Bank in Australia, they have a huge retail base of customers there. How do they actually get nearer to all these customers in Australia? Okay, they basically adopted digital transformation as well, working together at Red Hat. Okay, and we were able to actually help them come out with innovative apps, okay, that sits on mobile phones that actually talks and speaks so much more to their customers. STT, Telemedia Connect. You've seen Dave, who's the CIO, speak this morning, so it needs no further introductions. We've been able to help them start a whole new business line just by undertaking our OpenStack portfolio. Right, so I'm talking so much about all these good things. How do we actually get you there? Take a look at this picture. Does this look like how your organization looks like today in terms of a budgeting process? Okay? This does not come from me. The study was done by Gartner. And what happens is that for customers who have successfully digitized themselves, okay, or gone through digital transformation, this is a typical snapshot of how their budgeting looks like. Rather than the traditional 80% spent on running and 20% on acquiring new capabilities, they now actually change it a little bit down to 70% to run. 11% is actually meant on transforming. What do we mean by transforming? Transforming is actually where they actually put budget in terms of acquiring new investments that actually helps them to actually go forward. This is where they actually put into to money things like containers, DevOps, all these new ideas worth exploring that they are trying to do. Okay, and it's very important to also think of it not only from a budget aspect. If today in your organization you're an IT organization, imagine if this is how money works. This was also equivalent to how your organization works as well, the resources, the efforts that's spent on areas like transform. One of the things I always hear today around when we talk about DevOps is about the culture. It's about picking up new technology, right? How do we actually have that kind of mindset to actually start doing it, right? When you start investing money there, right, people's minds would actually start following there. And it goes with KPIs and whatnots in our organization. So that's how one of the ways that you could actually look at this as well. And believe me, the companies that I work with who are successful in this aspect, yeah, they actually put a lot of thought into that as well. Okay, so how do we do it? How do we shift your budgets with Red Hat virtualization, okay, through our infrastructure migration solution? It's important to realize, okay, that today, most of your organizations, okay, how many of you are on virtualization? Okay, I see a number of hands. The rest of you, are you on bare metal or something? Huh? Okay, right, judging by a laugh, I guess most of you are on virtualization, right? So, how do you actually, take something as commoditized as virtualization and actually, squeeze some money out of there, right? So that is actually one of the ways that we look at it. Okay, the typical cost savings of 40 to 50% over 3 years, long-term commitments with proprietary virtualization when compared. Okay, we have also developed a proven methodology to actually help customers get to our virtualization platform. Okay, which actually, from a cost perspective, is actually much more effective. So what we do with this solution, we help customers look at coming over to an alternative virtualization platform like Red Hat, okay? And most of the workloads in there, we help them automate during that process so that it could actually easily be put onto any other platforms or replicated on the other platforms, not just virtualization, but even on public clouds. And this, in turn, modernizes their infrastructure in a way that is actually able to accommodate new types of different workloads in the future. Okay. Just look from a cost perspective. Okay. This is based on studies that we have done, okay, with most of the customers who have actually adopted this. From a proprietary virtualization perspective, what they usually see is that with time, as it grows, cost goes up. Because to enter into long-term contracts, they need to be able to actually work with customers, and customers usually are told to actually get into long-term contracts that increases the cost as they go. In order to get more discount, you need to buy more longer periods and then suffer that kind of lock-in. But from a Red Hat perspective, what we do is that it's very subscription-based. What we do is a subscription-based perspective. And customers grow as they need with us. So a lot of times customers realize that when they're actually having a conversation with us in terms of virtualization, they're really looking at just growing their capacity and then talking about cost next, right? And this is really what we're trying to do here in this slide. You see on your left-hand side, you have present state, whereby your traditional applications are sitting onto your usual vRealize, vSphere, or any other virtualization platform. Okay, you're spending most of your money there. This is where 80% of your money goes to, your budget goes to, right? And then when you acquire, you put more money into it. But what we are simply suggesting is some of this, you don't need to actually utilize some of the most advanced features that your regular virtualization platforms give you. What you could do is move on to a more cost-efficient, cost-effective platform like Red Hat virtualization. You could actually start shifting some budget towards Red Hat virtualization, and in the process, you free up that cost, okay, so that you could actually get other emerging technology that you can actually use to actually digitally transform. Okay? I do see that some of you are a bit skeptical on your faces. Don't worry, come and look for me later. I show you how it's done. Okay? But first you have to get ready and tell me what you have, right? Okay, so you guys might actually think, Sean, all you're saying, seems too good to be true, And how many of you here likes to do migrations? Anybody here likes to do migration? I hate it. Okay, but you know what? Red Hat, we want to do this, right? We've got to make sure that when we go and approach customers like yourself, we must be ready for that conversation. Therefore, we have to have a very good and proven methodology that we do. So what is the approach? 3 key considerations in terms of a successful migration. Number 1, planning, and platform setup. You need to define the approach and architecture. You need to operationalize and visualize what was the Red Hat virtualization platform that you're getting into. Then you need to have a look at all your existing VMs and ask yourself, how critical are these, and how to bring them over. Okay? Not just from a technical perspective, business perspective as well. That's very important, because whatever these VMs are doing, they're serving a business function. Number 2, of course, we develop a comprehensive tooling and approach for migrating key loads, the workloads. Okay, all the peripheral connectivity on the original VMs, okay, the kind of systems that they support, okay, they all have to be taken into consideration when you're actually thinking about the migration. It's not as simple as using a tool, put it on, convert, voila. Okay, what about the backup? Okay. What about the DR software that we're using? These are all things that you have to put into consideration. And then finally think about the migration execution, right? You have to keep validating and thinking about the approach, all right? And then make sure that the plan is actually jointly agreed by everybody. And then you do a pilot, okay, a small set of pilot to just test out and see whether it works. And then that actually helps you set the stage and give your people the confidence to move on. So these are actually the 3 key considerations that we typically think of in a successful migration. So how do we translate that into something that's in practical application? Number 1, we do a discovery session. Some of you are our clients. You know that we do a discovery session with you to walk through all these things. All right? We walk through high-level architecture, the migration, and it's also here where we do a ROI calculation with you, okay, to indeed help you look at how this could actually help you save, okay, or transfer your budgets towards investments. We do a migration pilot based on some of the things that I mentioned earlier on, okay? And once that's proven, okay, hopefully that's proven, but I can tell you, usually there's some refinements that we have to make, and then we go back to, doing our migration again, okay? But once that's calibrated enough, then we are confident to go large scale. And that is how we actually help customers with that. Okay? And these are not done by just yourself. Okay? Red Hat actually sends its world-class consultants to actually help you in this journey, to take you through this journey. Okay? And these are people who have done this before, right? Okay? This is how it looks like, a typical migration pilot. You actually have collaborative resources, Red Hat's and customers' resources as well. Okay, that goes to show how much, in terms of expectations, we actually want from you as customers and ourselves to give in this process. A quick technical overview, right? So what really happens? Okay, first of all, we look at your current vSphere environment. These are where we ask questions like things like how many workloads, what workloads, okay? Who are the business stakeholders? What are we doing, right, to all these workloads? It's also true here, this process, that sometimes we do a bit of consolidation as well. Then we realize, over the years, we have bought so much migration or started so many migration projects on a piecemeal basis, okay, that sometimes the guy who tells me that he needs 50 VMs, actually only needs about 40. But then again, we have actually done that, the hardware investment. This also serves as another consolidation exercise to actually help some of our clients, right? Once that is done, we prep the ref environment to look like what you're actually going to. Okay, we need to prep based on what you have, like how much vCPU processing resources, how much compute, how much storage that we need. Once that is done, we install CloudForms. That's actually our migration tool that actually helps to prepare two environments. It's able to talk to both environments and make sure that it works, right? And then we have we actually then use conversion hosts that actually helps you with this exercise. What are conversion hosts? Simply put, what they do is that they take your original VM images, they do a copy, and at the same time transform it into a copy that can be used on the ref environment. Okay. Inside our CloudForms, we also do an infrastructure mapping. This is where we do things like determine clusters, data stores, networks, so that it looks exactly like what it was before. So that beginning and the end, they are actually, they look the same. And once that is done, you could actually go back to your vSphere, okay, and look at what's your migration plan. You don't have to move everything over. Remember what I said earlier on about just having to do one or two migrations for a start to actually test out your ideas and the approach that we have. You could actually do that. Save this as a plan, okay, and then you can do it again. So once that is good, you can actually revisit everything that I mentioned is actually are things that you can calibrate until you are happy. Then you can do a massive migration. Okay? So I made it sound very simple, didn't I? Are you guys ready to go out and just start buying? Okay, I don't think so, right? Okay, let me share with you, right, one customer, Intermountain Healthcare. This is a customer of ours in the US. Interestingly, they are actually a not-for-profit organization in the US. And the thing with non-profit organizations is that every cent that they spend has to be scrutinized, and a lot of consideration goes into it. But that does not take anything away from their size. 22 hospitals, 1,400 physicians across 185 clinics across the US. To serve their patients better, they actually have what they call a zero harm policy in terms of financial, in terms of physical, in terms of mental care of a customer, a patient. They have to ensure that it's all done very neatly, okay, and it doesn't give them any harm. Like yourselves, they went for a Red Hat forum. Just kidding. But they explored technologies like ours in order to be closer to their customers. Obviously, digital transformation apps that sets friendly reminders that tells them their customers or their patients how much they have left in their account. Things like that, okay, are actually being incorporated. And how do they introduce these features at breakneck pace and get over very quickly? They actually went through the same approach that I actually talked about, okay? And in the process, they put in a few other pieces of Red Hat technology, things like our CloudForms to actually help with provisioning. From 2 weeks for normal VM provisioning, they actually reduce it down to about 2 days, okay? They also use automation solution in the form of Ansible to help them automate a lot of the daily day 2 operations that they do. And as a result, okay, they could also, at the same time, replace their expensive ELAs with VMware, and they were able to actually shift it back to, or rather shift it towards Red Hat virtualization, which is remarkably lower. And I think that figure was, we were able to help them save about 40 to 50% in terms of licensing costs. Okay? And that, in turn, was money that they spent on other things to improve the quality of their organization's healthcare, okay, to patients. And yes, right? That was actually how we actually helped them to fund their innovation, okay? And that's certainly, I think, an idea worth exploring. So that brings me to the end of my conversation with you. I hope that was helpful. Now, if you're still not convinced, all right, or if you feel like finding out more, I'll be around. But at the same time, you actually could you could go to this, some of these pages that we actually have here, the Infrastructure Migration Solution homepage, okay? Or there's actually an IMS demo, a technical demo of what I mentioned earlier on. You could actually go and take a look. Or, okay, your friendly red hat associates and your managers are actually standing at the back of the hall. Feel free to go over and actually have a conversation with me. I'll still be around. Thank you for your time, and that's all from me.